And good Tuesday morning. Time for Wake Up Show to go. Larry Sprinkle and Chris Mulcahy here. There's just two of us, and it's normally about 99% of the time about weather.
Well, on a Tuesday, too. Yeah. So what's going on?
Yeah, I want to show this image, and you'll appreciate it, too, Chris, this image, right, because there's not only Idalia, there's a huge storm off the East Coast.
Isn't that crazy?
Franklin is a classic. Then you know what? I love to see hurricanes like this. They're not affecting anyone.
Nope.
And it's so well formed, amazing. It's Category 4, but that's the one we're talking about right there. Idalia became, and the 5 o'clock a.m. advisory today, winds up to 75 miles per hour. Still north of that western tip of Cuba, but it's entering in some very warm waters. I mean, their water temperature is about 90 degrees right there.
So this really reminds me of a Michael-esque scenario. So Michael was much further west, and I'm not saying this is becoming a Category 5, but it's going to go into a deep, rapid intensification where each time that we get an update, it seems like the winds are getting stronger and stronger. Because before, when we were first talking about, hey, this is going to become a strong hurricane, Category 2, and then yesterday we were talking about Category 3. Now those updates gone from 110 to 150 to 120. We're getting close to Category 4 at landfall.
I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't make landfall as a Category 4. Right now it's a Category 1, wind 75 miles an hour, moving north, pretty fast clip, moving about 14 miles per hour. Now, faster it moves, then that, the intensification happens, but as long as it sits there and really just churns, it does intensify considerably. All right, now let's talk about, we've been mentioning this area, the Big Bend of Florida. We don't talk about it very much. It's a pretty much unpopulated area. It's where the peninsula and the panhandle actually come together. If you want to say the biggest town near there would be Tallahassee, is within that Big Bend area. And it's interesting because I've never remembered talking about a hurricane affecting the Big Bend area, Chris.
Yeah, and I went to school in Tallahassee, Florida. So I went to Florida State University, and it didn't really come up as really that many opportunities because it doesn't usually happen. Maybe the Western Panhandle.
So you've done a little bit of research on this.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of that, and I decided to go back. When was the last time that we really had a hurricane in this area? And this was a major hurricanes that I had to look for. Technically, for the Big Bend area, that little notch, there really hasn't been. But for major hurricanes, we're looking at the years 1950, 1935, and 1896.
So it's really been over 60 years since there's been one in the Big Bend area.
Yeah, of this magnitude. Yeah. Now, of course, there's been weakening ones, hurricanes just in general, but a major hurricane is classified as anything Category 3 or greater. So that would be winds pretty much in that 110, 115, 120. We're getting up into that range. It hasn't happened. So, and also, and one of these actually was made landfall really close to a Category 2. So that's right on the cusp as far as major hurricanes go. It kind of changed right over. But this is a rarity in itself. And then how strong it's going to get in Larry, as you mentioned, I think major hurricane status, that looks to be in the bank.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Once again, we are talking about that Big Bend area of Florida. We'll go back and show you what's going on. And you can see as it intensifies, this is a futurecast. And this takes us, as you can see, this is, as we get into this evening, about 10 o'clock, still out in the Gulf of Mexico. This takes us to about 2 a.m. early tomorrow morning, sitting off the coast there of the Big Bend area, massive storm. And then landfall maybe somewhere close to 8 a.m., somewhere 8:30, 9 o'clock, right in that Big Bend area. And you can see it starts a pretty fast move up to the north central part of Florida, then just south of Dothan, Alabama. But you can see the storm system extends pretty far out towards Charleston at that time. And then look at the movement of this system. At the very, very top, you can see our part of the world. I think the heaviest rain, the storm's obviously going to be south of here, if it follows this path.
Yeah, and right now it's looking pretty good. You got some blocking mechanisms, kind of got to push it south, which is good. And this thing is flying, which is great news. The amount of rain that's going to come down is still in that 4 to 8 range south and southeast of us. If this thing slowed down, say, even half of Florence's pace, yeah, this would be devastating. And not saying it's not going to be bad flooding. Look at those numbers and how fast it's moving already.
Now, when you look at some of these numbers, I think that may be a little bit overestimated, but it does indicate the amount of rain that they're going to see really south of here. That does include places like Lancaster, over towards areas around Cheraw and Chester, even the Charlotte area. estimates well over 2 inches of rain possible here. That's flash flood material right there.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be the biggest update. I think the biggest update that we're going to see here by tomorrow is making landfall. Going to have a good idea what it's going to do is either seeing these rainfalls pretty much stay where they are or go down. I think that what Larry was just showing is pretty much the top. I don't see it really going too much further north than what that's seeing, because I think that that's pretty much the top estimate of our worst case scenario.
Absolutely, and already this you can see the amount of different storms, storm watches, hurricane warnings in effect from Tampa all the way up towards areas just south of Tallahassee, where you were talking just a minute ago. That's a pretty wide area, you know, and we call the cone of uncertainty. You know, you don't follow the center track. It could be miles in difference, although that cone is pretty narrowing a lot. In that past look that we had.
Yeah, look, I just did a measurement on it. You have 100 miles, but it's usually much more vast. So we're looking at less than 100 miles that it's really starting to narrow in on. And Larry had mentioned this. The good news about where it's kind of setting up, and cone of uncertainty, this still could shift many miles. That's one of the least populated shorelines of Florida.
Yes.
And that's, if we're always trying to find a silver lining here, it's going to be that.
Yeah, then the shifts starts that turn up towards the coastal sections of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. That's why we do have some tropical storm watches in effect from Savannah to Charleston. That'll probably be extended. What we'll see is tropical storm force winds along our coastal areas. We'll take a look at the wind gusts right here. You can see the time right at the top up there. That's late tonight. And then there you go. You can see that's right around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's giving a pinhole eye. You notice that? Because I don't think it's going to have enough time to really have an eye like what we saw from Franklin. It's still going to get one. That's pretty much the to-do list for Idalia in the meantime. It's going to get an eye. It's going to rapidly drop in pressure. It's going to start trying to pluck off different categories, and then luckily once it gets to us, what would you say? Probably max about 40-mile-per-hour winds, maybe.
Here, you thought
here, Charlotte South. I think that's pretty much our peak.
Yeah, which is good. But along the coastal areas, they're going to see some winds 60 up to maybe 70 miles an hour. Strong tropical storm force winds in the coastal sections. The big issue is in Florida, especially, is the storm surge, devastating. All it takes is 3 feet to become life-threatening storm surge. We're talking about up to maybe 10 feet in some areas. And that coastal area, I found out that coastal area right there, when you go out in the water, it's not deep out there. So it's shallow. That's even worse.
Wow.
High tide and storm surge, that's devastating. And thank the Lord that it's not a highly populated area.
Oh, my goodness, yeah, because think about what happened with Ian.
Oh, yeah.
And that had a record Southwest Florida surge of 13.6. I actually just looked that up yesterday because our weather IQ that we're learning about this week is thrown together last minute is because we've mentioned this before, the I names. Over the last 2 years, we had Ida, that had a very similar situation to Katrina as far as the date went, even reversed the Mississippi. Ian, of course, that you know, and now we have Idalia. So these I names are ones to watch out for, and the ones that keep on getting retired. Don't underestimate this. This is going to be a serious storm. It only takes just one. And as of right now for this season, this looks to be the one.
Absolutely. I didn't mean to bounce the graphics right there.
Oh, you're all good, man.
We're still
People
talking
love that bonus 7 days, man.
Good bonus right there. The storm watch is extended all the way up towards our part of the world. You can see all the way from Brunswick, Georgia, up towards Savannah, then into areas in South Carolina. That's as of right now. So that will be extended more than likely over the next 24 hours.
I want to end on one hidden danger that we're going to overlook here, or we're not going to because we're going to mention it, of course, but you might overlook. It's Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
So a lot of people might be going to the shoreline. Hey, it's going to be the last summer. What's going to happen with Idalia is going to go out in the Atlantic and it's going to kind of sit. So even though it's going to weaken and do that, it's going to cause some bad rip currents. So we're going to have some really high, dangerous surf, dangerous rip currents. Once it gets far enough away, it might be fine to swim, but I think the rip currents are going to be a big issue. So if you're going to the beach, keep that in mind. You're probably going to have those red flags waving in general.
Yeah, I was going to say this weekend, unfortunately, will not. Well, this week, and the weekend should be okay, but the next several days, up to Friday, that rip current situation, and then obviously as this storm system works its way up from Wednesday afternoon into the evening along the coastal sections, it will be stormy. So if you have travel plans, I think a lot of people probably not getting down there until Friday, which is good because things will be be okay by then. But anytime between now and, say, late Thursday night, that's going to be an issue. Of course, we'll be here and keep you updated about this, and obviously the very latest on the Today Show, which you're watching hopefully at some point. And then Brad will be here this afternoon. The whole team is here.
Oh, absolutely.
All the storm system.
We are on guard. We are here for you. Stay weather aware with the potential for those flooding rains in Florida. And you're probably not watching us locally, but we're here for you. Stay safe.
Look at this view right here. Take you to a nice, calm Myrtle Beach, South Carolina right now. Things will change over the next 24 to 36 hours. Have a great day.
Before the storm. Yeah.